Welcome to another episode of The Artsy Raven, a show about writing and publishing with your host, J.F. Garrard.
Welcome to another episode of the Artsy Raven. Today, our special guest is JoAnn McCaig. So, JoAnn is the author of The Textbook of the Rose and An Honest Woman. She is the proud owner of Shelf Life Books, an independent bookstore in her hometown of Calgary, Alberta. So, welcome, JoAnn.
Thank you for having me.
So, can you tell us a little bit about your background and what inspired you to become a writer?
Oh, sure. Well, I was always a kind of a bookish little girl. I loved going to the library. My mother, of course, read to us when we were little. And when I could walk to the library on my own, I would take myself there and check out books. And I would have started to write my first stories when I was about 10, maybe. I started writing. And when I look back on it, I think in part it was an attempt to try to understand the world, to get a sense of what was going on around me. My mother, my sister was born when I was 9, and that kind of upended the family. And my mother actually had a pretty severe bout of postpartum depression following my sister's birth, so everything was kind of chaotic in my family. And when I look back on it now, I think those first few story attempts were kind of an attempt to kind of, I don't know, get a grip on what was happening or manipulate reality in some way or make reality more palatable. So I would have started then in junior high. My story, The Window, won second prize in the school short story contest, and it featured a heroic aristocratic woman who was unfairly imprisoned in a tower, and she concocts a heroic escape and comes out of it smelling like a rose. And like typical of the world, mine was the second place story, and the first place story was a comic story about Santa riding a surfboard. So,
Okay, well, there you
yeah.
go. Oh gosh. Now, so did you end up going to school for English? Is that what happened?
Yeah, well, I had a sort of erratic academic career at first. I didn't really find my way into undergrad English seriously until I was in my early 30s. And then all of a sudden something just clicked, and I went, wow, I really like this stuff. And profs would ask me to write an essay, and I would go, yeah, I've got something to say about this. And at UVic, I took my first for credit creative writing courses. And so my first like serious stories, like adult publishable stories, came out of those creative writing workshops at the University of Victoria.
Okay, so how did you become a bookseller?
Well, I ended up going on to do a couple of graduate degrees in English at the University of Calgary. And I taught there as a sessional for 20 years while my children were school age. And then the time came when it was time to leave teaching, but I wanted to stay bookish at some level. So I live in a city of about over 1 million people, Calgary, and our downtown bookstore had closed, had been turned into a sport check or something. And I thought, that's not okay. That's not okay for a city of more than 1 million people not to have an independent bookstore downtown. So I knew zero, like nothing about retail. Like I had never operated a cash register, but fortunately I had an old friend who had retail experience, and he and I teamed up, and we found a really nice location, not right downtown, but close to it, walking distance. And we founded Shelf Life Books. And it's a very I could even hazard the word highbrow literary bookstore. Like we're very, very careful about curating what we sell. And it's meant to appeal to people who are serious readers, who really care about good writing and good literature. So we started in 2010, just celebrated 15 years in business, and it's gone really well.
Wow. Okay. Now you have a new book out called Beneficiary. Can you tell us a little bit about it? Like, give us the back cover and what inspired it?
Oh, sure. So the first, it has 5 parts, and the first 2 parts follow my central character, Saren Davies, through single motherhood in her teen years and her 20s. And I actually drafted those first 2 sections in the 90s when I was in
Oh.
grad school at the USC. And I could never kind of find a home for them. These first 2 pieces were quite long. They were sort of novella length. And there was no venue for them. I think I sent the first section to the Malahat novella contest 6 times, right? Like that was, where else was it going to go? So, but I always liked these stories about Saren, and I just wondered, well, what do I do with that? And then COVID came along, and everything kind of shut down, and I kind of hung out. My family has a place in the mountains of BC, and I just kind of hung out there. And I went back to this material, and as the days went by, I thought, oh, well, maybe I could do this and that and that. So I added 3 more sections to the novel, basically following Saren from her mid 40s right up until till her 60s, and all of a sudden I had a novel, and yeah, so that's how Beneficiary happened. It was sort of an accident of timing.
Now is the main character Saren based on anybody?
No,
Okay.
I completely made her up. Her name changed many times over the course of the years. She was Sally for a while. She was Sarah for a long time. She was Ramona for a while. And it was funny when I was out at the lake there during COVID. I thought the name Saren had popped into my head
Mm.
out of nowhere, and I thought, oh, I'm brilliant. This is the perfect name because it has to do with her journey toward serenity and all those things.
Mm.
And then, when I was going back through my notes from the 90s, the name Saren was already there.
Oh.
Like it had already floated through early drafts. So I almost think that was what her name was meant to be right from the start, even though I probably didn't realize.
Now, was there a reason why you picked the setting to be in the 1969?
Well, part of Saren, I think of the novel as sort of a hero's journey, and part of Saren's journey is realizing that the gender arrangements of her time, like so she's in high school in the late 60s, early 70s, and she's kind of looking at the gender arrangements in her time and going, I don't like this, and that kind of coincides with second wave feminism in the wider world. So I was hoping to tell the story of one young woman kind of negotiating that countercultural socio-political moment, right? When all of a sudden, we have access to the pill, right? So we're supposedly liberated, but how liberated are we really? Like how much equality is there really? So setting that in a particular socio-political moment was really important to me. And then later on in the novel, a part of it happens in 2016, which is in the height of the refugee crisis in Europe. And one of the things that Saren does is she goes to volunteer in a refugee camp in Lesbos, because again, like all of us are living in a socio-political reality, and it can't help but affect us. You know, it can't help but have an impact on us.
Now, your book also explores wealth and class and
Yes.
inheritance. Like, why did you choose to add those ideas in as well? I mean, you could have just focused more, like, just on one thing or on feminism only or whatnot. But
Right, right. Well, I don't know. Like to me, you know, money is one of the great taboos. I mean, even more than sex, isn't it? It's like,
yes.
oh, we can't talk about that. So I thought I felt it was kind of a useful thing to interrogate that taboo and to interrogate preconceptions about privilege and wealth, and to ask those kinds of questions.
Now, what do you hope readers to take away from your book or ask questions about after?
Well, I don't know. For me, like, you know, if it like with a book you really love, what do you take away from it? What I take away from a book I really love is a feeling of connection, you know, of community, that I'm not alone in the world, that some other person has felt these things and observed these things and wondered about these things. And that a book I really love expands my worldview. It doesn't narrow it down. You know, it opens up the world and goes, oh, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of it that way before. So that's a long answer to a short question, but you know, if
That's
somebody
fine.
likes Beneficiary, I hope that's the kind of reaction they have.
Now, were there any challenging moments of writing this book?
Oh, Lord. Let me just think now. Um, I didn't, I was really lucky with the publication history of this one because I only queried one publisher and they said yes.
That's
Now,
like the
that's
stuff of
so
legends.
unusual. That never happens. Never happens. With the first novel, with Textbook of the Rose, I sent out 12 simultaneous
Mhm.
queries or submissions at the same time. And I got 10 rejections and 2 maybes. With my second novel, An Honest Woman, oh man, the rejections, oh, it was, you know, and it would come back and I'd rewrite it, and the publishers would say, well, it's a good idea, but it's not really working. And it was a struggle getting An Honest Woman published. Though what really worked for me with An Honest Woman and those vague rejections from publishers about how, well, it's not really, you know, it's a good idea, but it's not really working. I joined a writers group.
Mm.
And in the writers group, we went through the problematic areas, not the whole novel, but the problematic areas. And we went through 10 pages at a time. And that way, I was able to see, oh, this is where people are confused. And, you know, maybe if I change this, it will, so having that kind of attention to detail was really, really helpful with finally finding a publisher. So I finally did, you know, after rejection, I got 2 publishers expressing an interest at the same time. So I very politely went with the first one, but I remembered the second one who'd expressed an interest. So when Beneficiary was ready to go, I said, well, U of C Press liked the last one, maybe they'll like this one. And they did. But that's very unusual. And I will tell your listeners, so when Honest Woman was getting rejected over and over, I got what Marilyn Simons calls a rave rejection. Like it was a very, very complimentary rejection letter from a quite prominent Canadian press. And I actually quoted the rave rejection in a subsequent query letter. And it worked. Like that was to U of C Press, and they went, "Oh yeah." So
Okay.
you know, with beginning writers, I say, like, you know, rejection builds character. You know, it really does.
What advice do you have for aspiring writers?
Well, don't be afraid of rejection. Rejection really does build character. And, you know, and the other thing is, like, I'm also I've been in the publishing business too. And rejection, it's never personal. Like, don't take it personally. You know, a publisher is a business. They look at your manuscript and they think, well, can we sell a few copies of this? And if they don't think they can, you know, it's not personal. It's a business decision.
Yep. Okay,
Yeah.
so you're going to do a reading for us. So can you give us a bit of context and then you can start reading?
Sure. Well, I did talk about Saren starting high school in 1969. So I'm going to start with a scene quite early on in the book. So, you know, she went through the usual junior high trials of, you know, pimpliness and awkwardness and all that. And she's in high school now, and, you know, things are going not too bad. She's got a nice boyfriend and hang on. And things are okay. But there comes a moment where she just thinks, I'm not really sure this is what I want. 1969, November, 9:25, just before the second commercial break on the Mod Squad. Sarah knows the phone will ring, and it does. She hears it with a mixture of relief and dread. She always takes the call in the basement rumpus room, crouched behind the bar, sometimes paging through a copy of Peyton Place her older sister has stashed there. By now, the pages just automatically fall open at the racy parts. Saren and Denny have been going out for over a year, ever since he asked her to the fall fling at the beginning of grade 10. And now he calls exactly 3 times a week, Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday at 9:25. Does he always do homework or chores till precisely 9:15? Uncharitably, she pictures him taking 10 minutes to get ready, knee bends or deep breathing or standing in front of the bathroom mirror. Not that he has to do much work during these calls. She takes her time picking up the phone tonight, nervous because of what happened last time, Tuesday, when something went wrong. They'd settled in and she was brightly chatting away. You'll never guess who said hi to me in the hall yesterday. No, wait, she can't tell him that. She's forgotten who she's talking to. This is her boyfriend, not Sandy, not Gail. She can't tell him how that hunk Seth Caldwell said hi to her, smiled at her. She's slipping, not concentrating. Why does it have to be so hard and take so long? Why does she have to prattle and chatter and giggle and be adorable for 20 whole minutes when he says nothing and she's tired and there's homework and it's always 20 minutes by her watch before he says on Sundays and Tuesdays, well, gotta hit the hay, sleep tight, eh? See you tomorrow. Or on Thursday, so what are you doing Saturday? As if he doesn't know exactly what she's doing. Hasn't she gone out with him every Saturday night for the past year? But no, that's crazy. He's sweet. She adores him. He's never stood her up, not once. He's never late. He's patient and kind. He stops when she says no. He bought her a bottle of Tigress for her birthday. The lid of the perfume bottle is covered in fake tiger fur. Into that sudden silence 2 days ago, he'd said, you saw someone in the hall? No, nothing. Forget it. No, tell me. It's nothing. Forget it. Silence again, and her mind went completely, scarily blank. Ask some questions. Draw him out. How was the chem midterm? Did coach put you back in at center? But there was a short circuit somewhere between her brain and her mouth. She could muster nothing to pour into this terrible silence except, I'm really sorry. I have to go, okay? I'll see you tomorrow. Sorry. Are you all right? Fine. Okay. Sleep tight, eh? This all comes back to her tonight as she sits by the phone in the middle of the rumpus room with its expanse of starburst lino in earth tones, the Danish modern end tables and teak armchairs with cheery blue and purple upholstery, the goatskin rug. What she'd done was terrible. She'd made a mistake. She'd failed. The girl never says goodbye first, never ends the call. She knows that. So tonight, Thursday night, she's determined to make it up to him. She'll be so bright and funny and fascinated that he won't know what hit him. She's looking forward to the kegger this weekend. Maybe Seth will be there. No, wait. Denny's voice, his Thursday 9:25 voice, his confident, "So, what's up?" Her cue. The performance begins right now, this minute. She should be salivating like that dog, that Russian guy's dog. What was his name? Her tongue goes stone numb right at the root. She swallows, mouth bone dry, her lips scraped together like sandpaper, not a drop of spit to summon, like trying to talk with a mouthful of sand. Denny coughs, tries again. "Sarah? Hey, you okay? What's up?" Silence. This is all wrong. You don't have silences, not if she's holding up her end. After all, he's the one who has to pick up the phone. He's the one who has to get up at 5:30 and deliver papers so he can afford to take her out. He's the one who has to stop when she says no. "Saren, are you there? Is something wrong?" "No." The word comes out half strangled, as if forced out of a passage rapidly closing, like a flower closing in one of those stop time images. "Are you sure? You're not sick or something?" His concern is real. This is not his fault. She says, I guess I just what? Just don't feel like talking." "Oh, okay. It's okay." His relief is audible. "Don't sweat it. If only he'd said, 'I know how you feel. I feel like that sometimes too.'" Another silence, which she cannot fill, though what her heart wants to say is, "You are sweet. I love you. Thank you for trying to understand." Her body refuses to allow her to utter a single word. Denny is unnerved now and pops the question 17 minutes ahead of schedule. "So there's a kegger out at Jameson's Ranch Saturday. Do you want to go?" "No." "Who said that?" "It'll be." "Pardon?" "No." "No." A very long silence. She can hear him breathing. Then he says, "Why not?" Silence. "Saren, why not? What's wrong?" "Nothing." A demon has taken over her body. The heat she feels on the sides of her face might be tears. "But there must be some reason. There must be something." "I just don't want to. I have to go. Bye." And she hangs up the phone. After the breakup with Denny, the weeks crawl by, dateless weeks. Gail prods her. "There must be something he did or said. There must be some reason." One of the older girls takes her aside, and the girls can, and says, "Look, guys can be funny, but if you just try to see it as a game." Denny's best friend calls one night. All he wants to know is why. But Saren has no answer, can make no answer to anyone, even to herself. Until Christmas Eve at Auntie Grace and Uncle Jim's annual open house. The carols, the punch. From the familiarity of all that comes the answer, or the words for it at least. Saren in her dutiful daughter best, laughing with her cousins. Sorry, I just have to clear my throat. She looks across the room at her parents, her mother perched on the arm of Dad's chair, talking to another couple. Her mom looking so lovely, her blonde hair stiff with Adorn hairspray, a perfect tendril coiled in front of each ear. She wears a powder blue silk sheath with a string of pearls, sits with her slim legs crossed at the ankle, a drink in one hand and a cigarette in the other. Leans forward, her face animated as she talks with the people on the other side of the marble coffee table, while Dad sits back in his chair, that customary bemused half smile on his face, stolidly within himself. Out of nowhere, Saren thinks, he's like the tree and she's this beautiful bird singing on the branch. Then she sees something so familiar that she is surprised to think she's seeing it, really seeing it for the first time. Her father shifts in his chair. The hand that holds his rye and ginger rests on the arm of the chair, but his free hand moves ever so slightly. A tiny gesture, the hand lifted an inch off the pant leg, the fingers raised. Flick. And Mom stops talking. instantly falls silent because Dad has decided he has something to say. How does Mom even see this gesture? She's leaning forward, her stream of bright chatter, kind questions, warm interest flowing out from the chair on behalf of both. This couple, they're a lovely couple. But she must see the flick out of the corner of her eye or sense it. She falls silent, turning to smile at her husband as he begins to speak. Saren's shock is visceral. Her scalp tingles. She feels as if insects are crawling through her hair. This is something her mother has learned. This is something her mother has learned to do.
Well, thank you very much for spending time with us today.
It's been a pleasure talking with you. Thanks for having me.
The Artsy Raven is produced by Dark Helix Press. Introduction voiceover by Chris Gorman. Music by Tim Moore. Please access your bonus content on the Patreon website. Thank you very much for listening, and please stay safe.